Fam, what's up? It's Kyle Henderson along with Andrew Bone coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Weather outside a little bit stormy. I think we're even under a tornado warning, but we know we don't stop here on Bama Insider. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys being part of the family. It's very important that you subscribe to our channel, inching closer to 90,000 subscribers on Bama Insider. Let's get right to it. Bone, always good to see you. I wanted to talk about Alabama football following the college football season. Nick Saban's final coaches poll, it reads like this. Georgia number 1, Bama number 2, TCU number 3, number 4 Michigan, number 5 Ohio State, and then 6 Tennessee. Nick Saban places Alabama number 2, 11-2 on the season, 7-0 at home, lost 2 games by a total of 4 points. Your take on Saban putting Alabama at number 2? I love it.
I know it's going to get mixed reactions, all across the country. I'm sure Alabama fans enjoy it more than most everybody else does. But I see Saban's point. I mean, you match up every single one of these teams against Alabama, according to Vegas, and Georgia's probably going to be the only favorite there against Alabama. So, that's probably what he's looking at. He knows that they would be favored against pretty much every other team in the country. He knows he's got a great team. He knows he lost 2 games. What was it, by a combined 4 points this season? Yeah. So on the road. So, Alabama had a great team. Did they live up to the expectations that everybody had for them? No. Are there changes that are going to be made? More than likely. So we'll see kind of what happens. But I do think that Saban has he's got a right to put in whoever he wants at number 2. It's kind of interesting. Kind of you're looking through all the different coaches who have ranked Alabama. Whether it was 2, 3, or 4, and pretty much everybody. From what I saw, I need to really go back through it, but everybody had Alabama in that top 4, top 5. But I was kind of surprised that Kirby had him number. What was it, number 6?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you about too. Is like, I mean, that's some shade right there. They're only in Alabama down at number 6, especially the way that Alabama finished out the season. And I think the team that played Auburn, the team that played Kansas State, that was the team that I think we expected Alabama to be the entire season. Now, collectively, as the whole season, whatever, but where Alabama finished playing, I mean, the team against Kansas State, that was a team that was clicking on all cylinders. That was a team that nobody wanted to face. And I love the fact that when Coach Saban was talking about the playoff rankings, he said head to head, we'd be favored against all of these teams come Vegas, right? So and then I think to add on it, like, what was your take when Georgia was completely taking it to TCU in the final? I think that certainly said a lot about the design of this current playoff format.
I mean, it didn't shock me. I mean, I posted on the Bama Insider board earlier that day. We were doing our predictions, and I said, I think I posted 48-24. I just didn't think it was going to be close at all. Yep. I obviously gave TCU way too much credit on that prediction, thinking that they would be able to score a little bit. But man, I mean, just complete domination. And I told somebody before the game, I was sitting with some buddies watching the game, and different people that were thinking that TCU was going to have a chance. I said, look at their offensive and defensive fronts. There is no comparison there. And every time, and that's what I like to look at every single time. And I know, that's kind of a given thing, but the size difference was just so so much better for Georgia. I mean, those guys are absolute. I mean, they're monsters if you're going up against just about anybody else. But you look at their game against Ohio State and how it was a competitive game, and obviously Ohio State had a chance to win, but it's because they matched up well. They recruit at a very high level. They recruit great linemen. They recruit great skill position players. TCU, what was their average in the recruiting rankings over the last 4 years? Like in the mid 50s. They just don't. They've got some talented athletes. Credit to them for going on. What was it? They didn't go undefeated. They lost 1 game, but they beat. They beat Michigan. So it's hard to say. The committee did a bad thing by putting TCU in there over Alabama.
I
Michigan.
just I just had a hard time with the fact that Kansas State beat TCU at the end of the season. Like that was like, and I get it. There's no perfect system, I guess, in college football. But I think when after Kansas State beat TCU, I just felt that, in terms of you losing your last game and still getting in. But then again, it's happened with Alabama when Alabama didn't even play in the SEC championship, still came in the playoffs and actually won the title, right? So
Well, I
just
think I think what you're trying to do every single year is you're trying to put the best four teams in there,
yeah, exactly.
not the most deserving. And everybody says, "Oh, Kansas State was so deserving. This school's in the this is
Mhm.
every single year. This school's so deserving. That school's so deserving." That's great. Let them go do their own little thing. Let the
No.
let the teams that are the best programs in the country or the best football teams in the country go and duke it out. I was Alabama one of the top four teams in the country from the eye test. Yes, they're better than Michigan, even though they lost two games. They're better than Michigan. They're better than Ohio State, in my opinion.
Mhm.
They're better than TCU. Are they better than Georgia? It's hard to say.
I, I
When
I mean, I don't think they're better than Georgia. I
Georgia
mean,
had an unbelievable year. They had a lot of guys that bought in. I do think we saw what kind of happened in some of those games against some of the offenses that Alabama played, and who knows? Georgia could easily put 50 points on Alabama, but we'll never know. And Alabama could have put a lot of points on Georgia. It would have been a much more competitive game, but also at the same time, that season's over. Alabama won at Sugar Bowl. At least there's some positive momentum heading into next season. Obviously, still some big question marks, especially at the quarterback position. Is there going to be some changes, some more changes in the coaching offices? I think that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. But Alabama finishing the season on a high note, winning against Auburn, winning
mhm,
against, having that big road win at Ole Miss. You had
mhm,
the, the big win against Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. But I thought with Will Anderson, Bryce Young, I thought them playing in that game, you know, mattered so much, not only for right now, but for the future of the program. And, you see what Alabama was able to do, during the early signing period, signing the best, recruiting class potentially of the Nick Saban era. I mean,
mhm.
it is on paper. We'll know in a few years if it lives up to those expectations. But there's a lot of momentum heading into the off season, and I think there's a lot of excitement because Alabama did recruit well. They may have lost two games during the regular season, and everybody talking about how the dynasty's dead. George is the new king. George is at the top right now. There's
Yeah.
nobody denying that. But
Mhm.
Alabama's still there. They're not going away.
So
They just
yeah,
signed.
and basically, I think two things that to put a cap on the season. Number one, we know that Georgia was number one, right? But we certainly know that Alabama wasn't the sixth best team in college football, right? Like, though we know those two things.
And Kirby Smart may have not even turned that in. It could have just been some person in his office doing that for him, some assistant who has some sort of grudge against Alabama. I don't know if Kirby Smart would have necessarily put Alabama at number six, but maybe. I mean, Coach Saban did go into the state of Georgia and take the two best players, away from them in this year's recruiting class, including a Georgia legacy. So he might be a little pissed off about that and said, you know what, this is how I'm going to get you back. I'm going to put you at number six in the in the final rankings. That doesn't really mean anything outside of who finished number one. But you know what, who cares?
Yeah, I mean,
We'll kind of see where things go. But yeah, what, Georgia had a great season. They deserve the national championship this year. I don't think anybody really. It's always funny when you read and hear different people talk about, oh, nobody counted, everybody counted out Georgia. Nobody expected them to win it all this year. I didn't expect Georgia to win it all this year. Going into the season,
Mm.
I thought, with all the people that they were replacing on the defense side of the ball, but then you kind of see, how well they recruit. And it's a lot like Alabama. It's not like Georgia's been finishing, 15, 17, 20, maybe a number one class here and
Mhm.
there, or a top five class here and there. They've been consistently in the top three for the last 5 or 6 years in the recruiting rankings. So, we've seen what Alabama was able to do over those years. They were able to, reload, not rebuild, and that's kind of what we're seeing at Georgia now. And I think everybody was just assuming, oh, they're gonna have to rebuild their team. They're not having to rebuild their team. They've got a great team. They got players at all these different positions, just like Alabama, and it kind of worked out in their favor this year. So, I thought it was kind of silly seeing people, seeing some of the former players or some of the current players say that people were predicting them to finish 7-5. I don't know who was predicting that or what they were smoking that day, but this was a team that everyone that I saw, national, SEC reporters, local reporters, everybody expected them to play in the SEC championship game. A lot of people were expecting them to get back to the college football playoff, just like they're going to be expecting that, next year and the year after. Because when you have success on the recruiting front year after year after year after year, and you go into the portal, you get good players, there's going to be high expectations for your team. There's not really, with the Alabamas, Georgias, Ohio States of the world, there's always going to be expectations to get into the college football playoff every single year because of how well they recruit, the coaches that they have on staff, and the type of programs that they have from top to bottom. So, it'll be interesting to kind of see who ends up becoming maybe that next team that's going to be a consistent college football player. Will it be Michigan, or will Harbaugh potentially bolt and go off to the NFL? Will Florida State potentially be in that mix in the coming years? Tennessee obviously had a great year. Had the big win against Clemson in the Orange Bowl. How much will they really start to factor in to the college football playoff on a yearly basis? So there's definitely some parity in college football, but I think the teams that are kind of always there, nothing's really going to change with those teams. They're always going to be there. Whether they're in the playoff or not, they're going to be in the hunt. All the way up until sometime in November.
Here with Andrew Bone of Bama Insider. Hey, Jarvis, we appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you so much. In the past 2 years, UGA has more natties than losses, which is very scary. Saban needs to win, or Kirby will start to Dean Saban's legacy. All right. We appreciate the super chat, Jarvis. I don't know about Saban's legacy being tainted by Kirby, but I love the Kobe jersey, man. And it's good to see you, man. Happy New Year, by the way. Kyle Henderson, a Bama Insider, along with Andrew Bone. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys being here. Hit the thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for content right here on our YouTube channel. Segueing into our next topic, I wanted to bring Bone in because Alabama basketball is absolutely rolling. I mean, you look at what they did last night to number 15 Arkansas, now 14-2 on the season after 84-69 victory over the Hogs. Alabama basketball, a couple days before that, has their student body calling for Kentucky to get excited about the NIT. Right. I mean, this Alabama basketball team is doing incredible things under Nate Oates. Nate Oates has continued to improve Alabama basketball. Freshman phenom Brandon Miller, one of the best basketball players in the entire country. I love when he hit that three, or he threw down that dunk, and he goes to the Kentucky basketball bench and he's like, "I'm here." I mean, talk about a complete alpha move. Bone, you're watching Alabama basketball. What this team is doing. I mean, this is pretty incredible. I mean, some of the best basketball that we've seen at Coleman Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean, that was I was actually at the game on Saturday, and it was a great atmosphere. It's nice to see that in Coleman, from time to time, and I think with the success of the program, you're going to see that, really all the time. I think that, the way Alabama's playing, they definitely look a lot different this year. Yeah, I was at a luncheon back in, I think it was maybe in October, and Coach Saban was there and Nate Oates was there, and Nate Oates was the first speaker, and he was telling everybody, and there was a few hundred people in the room. He's telling everybody that, stay patient with this team. He felt like he had a really good team heading into the season,
Mm,
but he felt like, there were going to be some growing pains, that they were going to have to learn a lot, and they were going to have to learn how to play together, because obviously a ton of fresh faces. You see the freshmen that are on the team, right now, and the success that they've had. And he said, we're likely going to suffer some losses early in the season, but
mhm,
stick with us once we kind of get into SEC tournament, because I think this team has a chance to be, pretty special. I don't know if Coach Oates thought that they would have the amount of success this early.
mhm.
So hopefully that can continue. But man, I mean, what a game last night at Bud Walton Arena. Very tough place to play. Always has been. I think somebody posted that Alabama had not won at Arkansas since the 2012 season. So
Wow.
that's a pretty long time. Just 10 years, or I guess 13 years now.
Yeah.
Not 13. What am I talking about? 11 years. But I thought that, I kept waiting on, all these different games, and we've seen it. As we've watched Alabama basketball for all these different years, you're kind of waiting on that time when things start to fall apart in the game. You build a big lead, or you're kind of controlling it the whole time, and then all of a sudden the other team starts to pull away, and they start you start fouling, they start hitting all their free throws, Alabama starts missing all their free throws, and it got a little tight at one point last night. I think it was 65-63 with maybe about 4.5 minutes to go, and then Clowney hits that three. um, Gave some momentum to Alabama, going up 5. Arkansas dribbles down the court, ball goes out of bounds, they go down, Brandon Miller hits another three. um, and then Arkansas turns the ball over, and all of a sudden it's an 11-point game
Mhm.
with 3 minutes to go. So it was, it's been pretty, pretty fun to watch this team play. And there's obviously a lot of good freshmen, but Mark Sears, transferring in from Ohio, that what an unbelievable player he's been for Alabama this season. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a fun team to watch. Interested to kind of see how far this team's going to go, because there are some things that they're going to have to try to fix, especially if they're going to, let's just say they happen to meet Gonzaga again in the basketball tournament. They're going to have to figure out how to slow down.
Well, look, I mean, when you look at Alabama basketball and you rewind to that Gonzaga game, and I think I said this on social media on Twitter, I was like, that was an Elite Eight, Final Four type game. And there was no way that you could have stopped Gonzaga from how they were shooting. I mean, credit to them. It was just an incredible performance of two very quality teams. And I mean, I think that was a taste of what we're going to see during March Madness. Bone, two things. Alabama takes on LSU this coming Saturday at Coleman Coliseum. And we were talking about this pre-show. Coach Saban visits with every top Alabama basketball prospect. I mean, talk about a recruiting edge for Nate Oates. And there's no bigger fan of Nick Saban than Nate Oates. I mean, Nate Oates made it clear when he first joined Alabama that he's read every Coach Saban book. He's studied Coach Saban from a philosophy standpoint. But also, you're like, okay, this is what Alabama's basketball trajectory is. And also, why don't you go and meet with Coach Saban, who knows a thing or two about winning? I mean, talk about just Nate Oates, and I mean, talk about that respect, right? I mean, that you have for somebody. So again, Alabama basketball taking on LSU. Definitely support Alabama's basketball program because it's really incredible. Switching gears now. Alabama football quickly in the playoffs as the NFL heats up. You got the Dolphins taking on the Bills. No Tua just yet, still out for injury regarding the concussion protocol. But overall, I wanted to get your take on this, Bone. The Philadelphia Eagles, I know they're not playing this weekend, but Jalen Hurts, what he's done for the Eagles. I mean, 14-1 as a starter, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Right now, not the favorite to win the NFL MVP, but certainly has put together, an incredible season. I think, honestly, if he didn't get hurt, he is the NFL MVP. I mean, Jalen Hurts from Alabama to Oklahoma to now, I don't think a lot of people saw it besides Jalen Hurts and kind of his own group, because that's one person who has certainly had it inside himself. Your take on Jalen Hurts and what he's done for the Eagles this year?
great to see. I mean, I think there was a lot of people, questioning, the last couple of years if he was going to be the guy in Philly. And man, he is just absolutely, been incredible. Has the Eagles as the, I guess, says the favorite in the NFC. Potentially going to the Super Bowl. They're having a bye this week, but I mean, just an incredible. Incredible season for Jalen, regardless if he wins NFL MVP or not. Really special to see. I mean, you see the the success of all the different players around him too. I mean, AJ Brown had an incredible year. The number 2 receiver on the Eagles team had over 1,100 yards receiving, and Devontae Smith. So Smitty would have a pretty remarkable year if AJ Brown didn't get traded to from the Titans. So Landon Dickerson making it to the Pro Bowl in his second year. Think about that. 2 years ago, Landon Dickerson tears his ACL, and it doesn't play in the national championship game. Dressed out, didn't he? Didn't he run out there on the field at one point?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and now he's a Pro Bowler. For the best. Are they the best team in the NFL?
Look, man, somebody that follows the 49ers, man. I mean, just like
Jeff
Jeff said it best. I mean, the 49ers are a scary team right now because of the defense that they have. And look, Brock Purdy, I mean, he's rolling, but there he is. Yeah, Landon Dickerson. He's got to be one of the best, the funnest players to come out of Alabama, especially since I've been here. I mean, he was awesome to work with. I mean, in terms of the media availability, is a guy who didn't care what he said what he wanted to say, but he was the ultimate team guy, right? And now to see him, Smitty, Jalen rolling with the Eagles, I mean, really, really incredible season that he's, that they've all put together. But
so who's your pick for? I mean, I guess I don't even need to ask you because I know who you expect is going to win the Super Bowl. But who are they going to play?
Oh man,
you got to tell everybody who you think.
I mean, I guess I would like to see. When you look at the AFC, Chris, can you bring up the AFC playoff bracket if you can? I think with the 49ers, it's been, a couple of things. Number one, the 49ers don't even have any players from Alabama, which, you're like, you look at it, right?
They got a pretty
absolutely loaded. Yeah. When you look to the fact that they added Christian McCaffrey.
Who's their defensive coordinator?
Oh, come on. Yeah, there you go. Right. I mean, and that's probably going to be, he's probably going to be a future NFL coach. You got to think. I mean, with what they're being able to do on
our future Alabama coach.
Ooh, right. Now thank you. Now you are talking, right? Thank you, Bone. Okay, there we go. All right. So when you look to the bracket, all right, so you got the Jags, you got the Chargers. I guess I would like to see the 49ers and the Chiefs in a rematch. I mean, that would be good to see. But I mean, can you imagine Brock Purdy trying to take on Patty Mahomes in the Super Bowl? I mean, look, he's done an incredible job, but the 49ers defense is ferocious.
I'll tell you, the Chiefs defense is pretty daggone good too. I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups. A lot of Alabama guys in a lot of these different games. I think the one that's probably not getting the most attention as far as Alabama guys. I mean, look at that the Giants and the Vikings game. I mean, you got Brian Daboll going in. I mean, Brian Daboll might be the one that speaking of we talk about all these different coaches, coordinators that get so much heat on the message boards all the time. I remember, that season that Brian Daboll was at Alabama, man, he was getting some heat. Now he's potentially going to be the NFL, potentially the NFL Coach of the Year, taking the Giants to the playoffs. But I mean, you got Brian Daboll, you got Evan Neal, Xavier McKinney, Landon Collins, who had a pick six a couple weeks ago after moving up from the practice squad, and then you're looking at the Minnesota Vikings. Irv Smith comes back off of his injury last week, so he's back. They also have Dalvin Tomlinson on the defensive front. So there's a lot of Alabama guys. I mean, there's Alabama guys in every game. Look, Julio Jones is playing in the playoff. How about a Julio Trevon Diggs matchup? Yeah. Even though Diggs is probably going to be matched up against Mike Evans, it'd be kind of cool to see Diggs and Julio go up against each other at least one point during that matchup. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I don't think I've asked you in all these years that we've known each other who's your NFL team? Do you have a squad?
I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, back when I was younger, I was a big Packers fan because I loved Brett Favre. Of course,
Favre.
I don't know if I love him as much anymore, but Packer. I like them more so for him. I was a big uh, um, Sterling Sharp fan.
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Sharp's brother. I loved him when he was there. Antonio Freeman. I mean, just there was such a lot
So
of really.
do you think Aaron Rodgers is coming back? Do you think he's gonna run it back?
Be, every year I think
Every
he's
year.
not. He always
Yeah.
comes back, but I would be surprised. But no, I don't really have an NFL team. Back in the day, growing up, you're like, all right, who are some of the teams that Alabama players are playing on, and you try to follow those teams. There weren't a lot of teams back then. You might have a random offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, or maybe a defensive back sprinkled in there. But man, there just wasn't a lot of Alabama players. And now they have 70 that were in
You
the
you
NFL
could
this
have your
year.
own Bama in the NFL, kinda like red zone, but it's just Bama players just rotating, right? I mean, there's just
Oh
so
yeah, yeah. I mean, you definitely have you filled your own Alabama football team with backups and everything. But I
everything.
mean, it's it's been incredible, and there's obviously going to be more guys that are going to be going into the league this year, so that number is going to definitely grow. But yeah, I don't really have necessarily an NFL team. I just like watching the red zone every single. And I guess my NFL team is my fantasy football team every
There
year.
you go. There you
That's
go.
probably my team because I'm cheering really hard for those guys. Even though my wife Audrey, she actually won her fantasy football league this year,
Oh,
so she was
oh,
all excited about that. I did not. I didn't even make the playoffs this year, but my wife won it, so she was all excited. And I think it was her third year. First year she doesn't care. Second
yeah.
year she starts getting into it. Third year, she's an animal. She loves. I mean, she's on that waiver wire every single week. She's looking to see who she needs to pick up. She loves watching it. So that's been fun. We're not in the obviously we're not in the same league, but she's in a league with a bunch of her girlfriends. But all of her girlfriends are. They didn't care. None of them. I mean, they started it 3 years ago. They had never even thought about fantasy football. They probably never even switched out their lineups, and now all of them. I think there's 12 of them that are in this league. They are so intense about it. They meet up together. I mean, It's kind of, I guess it's like watching the league on, on FX. But
Uh,
my friends are just, they just talk a bunch of crap on in group text nonstop. But
all right. So switching gears, our final segment of the show. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys being here. It's important that you subscribe to our channel, that you hit the thumbs up, that you support the content of Bama Insider. Remember, you can visit with Bone, Clint Lamb, Jimmy Stein, Joseph Hastings every day back at Bama Insider. Some great promos going on all the time. It's a new year. Start with On Three, the winning team, the winning organization. So here we are coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, talking about some postseason ideas. We talked about the basketball team. We talked about Saban's final coaches poll, Bama in the NFL. And we end our last segment talking recruiting with our recruiting expert. Junior Day this weekend for Alabama Crimson Tide. Bone, sprinkle some names in. Of course, you can get the full scoop. Communicate with Bone back on Bama Insider. Give us a taste of what's going on in Tuscaloosa this weekend.
yeah, so Alabama's going to have their first junior day this weekend. They're going to have, they're going to be kind of small. These junior days aren't really,
Mm.
they used to be these huge events where you'd bring in, 150, 200 kids, and you know, 20 of them are guys that you actually are recruiting and that you want. And I think you just bring in all these other guys just to say you had 150 kids on campus that weekend. So, Alabama likes to do it, really small. I think this weekend is going to be probably the smallest group. I mean, I would be surprised if there's more than 20 kids total on campus, and a lot of them aren't going to be your major targets. There's going to be major targets on campus, but it's not going to everybody that's going to be there is not going to be a top priority recruit this year. A lot of these junior days are getting to know you, sitting down with you. Yeah, this is going to be your recruiting coach for the year. This is what Alabama has to offer you. We're going to talk to you a little bit about, or not talk to you, but educate you on NIL, the do's and don'ts of NIL. We're going to let you tour the campus, see the facilities, meet with your position coaches, and most of these kids, if there's time, they're going to have an opportunity to sit down with Coach Saban, especially the guys who may already have offers. There's going to be guys who are going to earn offers during their visit. Not all of them can commit. You still got to get seen throughout the spring, maybe during summer camp. But if you're invited to junior day, you've pretty much been identified as a guy that Alabama likes, that they want to evaluate, that they want to continue to recruit and show interest in. But a lot of times, we're going to see a lot of big name guys. One of the top running backs on Alabama's recruiting board. And he's listed as an athlete, but Daniel Hill out of Meridian High School in Mississippi, he'll be back in Tuscaloosa. He was actually at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans watching the game. So this is definitely a guy that has high interest in Alabama. Alabama's been very very interested in him since he camped in Tuscaloosa last summer. Mosiah Bennett, who's an athlete out of Greenville High School in South Carolina, he's also going to be in town. Texas A&M defensive line commit Dalen Evans will also be making a trip to Tuscaloosa. And another big name that's going to be on campus is Arian Hampton, a defensive back athlete out of Texas, former Texas commitment, but has shown a lot of interest in Alabama. Camped in Alabama with the Crimson Tide last summer, earned an offer, and he's going to be back in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. So we'll see some more guys. We got some more guys on the list on the Alabama on Bama Insider. You go to Bama Insider, go to Talk Champions. We got the complete list of junior day visitors. Sterling Dixon, I'll throw that out there just because he's an Alabama commitment, top 100 edge rusher from Mobile Christian. He'll also be in town. Still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with Justin Rogers, former Kentucky, or I guess you call him Kentucky defensive line transfer. Visited LSU last week, visited Auburn over the weekend. There's some talk that he might visit Alabama this week. Now, we confirmed with Justin during, I guess it was during sometime on Monday, that he was going to visit Alabama this weekend, but there is a chance that he might end up not visiting. So we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen there. One of those things where I think Alabama likes him. They want to bring him in, kind of just, really decide if they're really going to make a big push for him. But, there's some other schools, like I mentioned, LSU, Auburn, really making a hard push for him, potentially go ahead and make a decision for the weekend, which could happen. So, I think that that's a possibility. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens with Justin Rogers over the course of the next, 24 hours or so. But, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens with the transfer portal this year, because Alabama has already taken one transfer portal target in C.J. Dupree. And C.J. Dupree is really the only guy that they've offered from the transfer portal so far. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you need to go after this guy, or you need to go after that guy." They're not going to go after anybody that they don't feel like can come in and make a big contribution or start, right away. They're going to go after transfer portal guys because of a big need at those positions. I think that a lot of people have asked me about quarterback. Is Alabama going to go after a quarterback? They're not going to go after a quarterback just to go after a quarterback. It's got to be somebody pretty freaking special that has a chance to potentially start next year, or at least really provide great competition to the guys who are there now. And I don't think there's anybody in the portal or they've seen anybody yet who fits that bill. Offensive line, people keep saying, and we get it. I mean, I think there's 12 returning offensive linemen, so everybody thinks that you need more offensive line help. Once again, you're not going to go after somebody just to come in and sit the bench and to provide depth. You want to go after somebody that can come in and make a big contribution. From what I've been told, there's nobody yet at the offensive line position that they're really that interested in, or bringing in for or going to bring in for a visit just yet. So we'll kind of wait and see if anything potentially changes. But as of right now, it's pretty slow on the transfer portal front just because there's a lot of guys that are going to be returning at at positions where you don't necessarily need to bring in a transfer portal guy, but we'll see. I mean, I think Alabama is definitely keeping their eyes open. If somebody is really good that enters the portal, they're potentially going to go after them. But nobody, right now that they're really prioritizing or saying this is a must get guy for us. We got to bring him in. We got to get him signed. We got to get him on the team. I don't think that's necessarily the case with anybody. They'd like to bring in Justin Rogers this weekend just to, see him, spend time with him, get to know him a little bit better. I mean, this is a guy who's been at Kentucky for the last 3 years. Staff met him a couple times back when he was in high school. So, you watch film on them, but you also want to bring these guys in and kind of see if they're going to mesh well with your program. They're going to gel with the coaches, gel with the players, and kind of sit down with them and figure out, is this a guy that we want to take? Because they did that with C.J. Dupree. They felt like this was a guy that we like a lot, but we got to get him on campus. We got to spend time with him, and then we'll decide if we're going to offer him. Got him on campus, offered him. I think the last day that he was there, he ends up committing. So that's kind of the thing with with transfers, unless it's somebody like this guy's not coming to Alabama. But if it was somebody like a Drake May, then that guy's going to have a scholarship offer. But most of these other positions, it's kind of up in the air until you actually come to campus, visit, and meet with the coaching staff.
All right, well, good stuff, Bone. And remember, you can check out all that coverage back on Bama Insider. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe on these videos. It really helps our YouTube channel. If you like our content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe so you are notified every single time we drop a video right here on Bama Insider. He's Andrew Bone. I'm Kyle Henderson. We could also appreciate some feedback inside the comment box. You want to see more of Bone and I on the YouTube channel? Let us know inside the comment box. I feel it's a good tandem. I always like catching up with you, Bone. I feel like our continuity, like I'm glad that we are on three, the winning team together, man. It's always good to rap, whether it's basketball. Today we're talking recruiting mostly, but I think just overall, like more Alabama football between me and you, man. I mean, I think let's give the people what they want, right? So yeah, it's here. So junior day, you got Alabama basketball taking on LSU. We appreciate you guys more than you know. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. One more time. He's Andrew Bone. I'm Kyle Henderson. Have a great weekend. We will be back soon with another video. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you soon right here on BamaInsider.com.